Hey, my name is Jason, and I'm going to share some tips on how to utilize the GH7 when it comes to filming on anamorphic lenses. The GH7 is a brilliant filmmaking camera that allows you to record open gate 4x3 at 5.8K at 25 frames per second. Anamorphic lenses are prized for their ability to deliver a cinematic look with an ultra-wide aspect ratio, distinctive lens flares, and the oval-shaped bokeh. By compressing the horizontal field of view, they create a dynamic composition with a grand immersive feel without needing wider focal lengths. This unique aesthetic, combined with their ability to add depth and character to a scene, makes anamorphic lenses a go-to choice for filmmakers aiming to elevate their visuals and stories with a professional artistic touch. So let's dive directly into the GH7 settings so I can show you guys what kind of recording modes are perfect for anamorphic lenses. So let's go into the menu settings and go down to the camera icon and go down to the third icon where it says Rec Quality. Now click into it and you can see 5.8K with open gate recording mode, which is 4x3. This gives you 420 10-bit and it is a great aspect ratio for this anamorphic lens. Now the GH7 has a 4x3 sensor, which is 17.3mm horizontal and 13mm vertical in size. The standard CinemaScope timeline is around 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio. Now if we place the 4x3 video on the CinemaScope timeline, you can see you'll have to zoom in and you'll lose a ton of footage at the top and bottom. But if you film with a 1.5 times anamorphic lens, you'll only need to chop off a little bit at the top and bottom when you place it into the timeline. And if you're using a standard 16:9 aspect ratio, you won't have to chop as much off at the top and bottom for the 4x3 footage. But if you use the same anamorphic lens, you can see you'll actually have to chop off the sides when you place it directly into the 16:9 format. Or you can actually shrink the footage into the 16:9 format and have the black bars at the top and bottom, which subjectively looks quite nice. Now we have to talk about filming in slow motion on the GH7. Now below we have 5.7K at 50 frames per second, but it's a 17:9 aspect ratio. Now using our CinemaScope timeline again with a 1.5 times anamorphic footage, it fits within the timeline. We would have to expand the footage a touch and crop a little bit off the sides to fit it within the timeline. Now if we use the standard 16:9 timeline once again, we can expand the footage a little bit and have small black bars at the top and bottom, or we can expand the footage to fit within the 16:9 aspect ratio and cut off the sides accordingly. Now there is a 4x3 mode with 50 frames per second, but it's a pixel by pixel crop. This is the standard footage when filming with a 1.5 times anamorphic lens on the 16:9 timeline. And now this is the pixel by pixel crop with 50 frames per second. You still get a nice 4.3K resolution out of this 50 frames per second compared to the 5.7K resolution out of the 25 frames per second full 4x3 mode. So overall you can see the crop here with the pixel by pixel mode. You just have to be aware what's going to happen to your footage in camera and how you're going to be treating it in post-production. Now there's a few more settings that we will need to dive into when utilizing anamorphic lenses on your camera. Now the GH7 does allow for de-squeezing in camera when it comes to monitoring. This is fantastic if you want to actually monitor the footage in camera and see what the de-squeezing is going to look like in post-production. So to access this, you'll need to go to the second gear icon, then you'll need to go down to the fifth icon and over to anamorphic de-squeeze display. So turn that on and select the anamorphic squeeze factor that you have with your lens. Now also I do recommend if you are using manual lenses, this is where you need to turn on your focus peaking. Now focus peaking is in the camera icon, go down to the fifth icon where it says focus, then go all the way down to where it says focus peaking. Now dive directly in that, go to set, and you can change the focus peaking sensitivity. So this essentially is how sensitive the focus peaking lines will be on your screen. You can also change the display color, so it really depends on what kind of colors you have in your screen to what you like when it comes to the focus display. Then you can go down to display during manual focus and turn all of these on. Now, LUMIX is renowned for their fantastic stability and there is great support when it comes to filming with anamorphics and specific squeeze ratios. Going into the menu settings in the camera icon, now go down to the last icon at the bottom and click the third one down, which is image stabilizer. Now this is where you can select what anamorphic squeeze factor you have. And in my case, I have the 1.5 times anamorphic lens. Now you can adjust the lens information. Select the lens profile, press the display button and change the focal length and adjust it to the correct focal length you're using. Now, if you do change to a different lens with a different focal length, this is where you need to adjust this appropriately. Now, you also have the ability to use Boost IS. Now, this mode allows you to do stable tripod shots without using a tripod. So you must not try and move the camera, as this only works specifically for static handheld shots. Now, once you're dialed in your IBIS, you should be able to get some really nice stable shots with your GH7. There's one thing you need to consider when it comes to filming with anamorphics is the lens options. Now, if you do have a micro four thirds anamorphic lens, you can obviously screw it directly to the GH7. But if you do want to actually use PL lenses, you may actually need to pick up a PL to micro four thirds mount adapter. This will allow you to use cinema grade anamorphic lenses directly to your GH7. Now, one thing you do have to consider is the focal length. So if I have a 65mm lens here, I have to times that by 2 to give me that full frame equivalent field of view. That ends up being about 130mm with that same field of view in a full frame camera. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you got a lot out of it, and definitely get out there, start filming some epic content with your GH7.